Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance, where people conform to the letter but not the spirit of a request. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some malicious compliance. Think you deserve more than 10% off and refuse to listen to our warnings? Okay, then you can't have it. So, I work in customer service at a very popular retail store that basically sells everything from food to electronics to plants. You've all been to this hellhole, and I'm sure you know exactly where I'm talking about, but I'm not gonna say the name since I'm still there till uni co-op starts. So, since I work the customer service desk at one of the least respected stores, I pretty much see the scum of the earth daily. And most of management is part of that, making rules that make sense on paper but not in practice, giving screaming customers whatever they want because they screamed, but not giving anything to the people who are kind to the workers, etc. Today, management had our backs though. I have lots of stories, but this is fresh from yesterday, so here you go. A woman comes to the customer service desk asking if she can get a discount on a pair of shoes because they look tattered and bad. There was nothing wrong with the shoes, they just looked cheap shoes because, well, that's what they were. My co-worker was the one she approached and, not wanting to argue, told her we can give her 10% off. This is the max discount even for associates. We aren't really technically supposed to give discounts on anything, but it's a big company and they don't care about a few bucks, so whatever. The girl gets mad though and says she doesn't think she should have to pay anything even close to full price for something of such low quality. The shoes were $14.97 by the way. My coworker explains that's the best we can really do for her, but she can buy a pair that she thinks looks less tattered. She says they all look like that, because that's how the shoe is supposed to look, and that she wants to speak to a manager because she deserves to pay less for something so tattered. At this point, I stepped in, because we were understaffed that night and I knew the managers were currently dealing with other issues. Associates being nowhere to be found, an issue in the parking lot, lots of sick calls, etc. And in my experience, most people just need to be told by any other person the same thing they were told the first time. I told the lady that the max discount anyone is able to give in the store is 10%, and that's only for actually broken items, even for associates. And that if the manager comes up, they will most likely tell her she's getting no discount at all. She scoffs and says, "Sure, I want to speak to them anyways and we'll see. I really want these shoes, and they're the only ones in my size, and they're tattered." I tried to tell her again that the managers won't give her a higher discount, and it'll probably take them like 10 minutes to get to the front, but she just tells me to get the manager and she'll see for herself. Cue malicious compliance. I had originally thought it'd be a douchebag tax situation, but it turned out better. So I called for a manager, and like I predicted, it took about 10 to 15 minutes for them to come to the front, and I guess they weren't very happy about it, presumably since they were in the middle of something else. So at this point, the lady has already wasted at least 15 minutes of her day waiting here and making faces at me and my coworker as though she had won. I point the manager toward the customer when she gets there, and they go ask what the issue is. The lady starts bashing me and my coworker, saying we are horrible at customer service and the customer is always right, blah blah blah. And she wants a bigger discount than just 10% because these shoes are broken, she says now. I guess since we told her she won't get a discount unless it's broken. And she doesn't want to pay even close to full price for something so low quality, she repeated. My manager looks at it and tells her they're not broken and that's just how the shoes look. The lady argues, saying they are, and she deserves a bigger discount. At this point, I guess my manager just snapped and said, "Okay, well, if you're sure they're broken, then we can't actually sell them. They have to go through our claims department and get sent back to the company. Sorry for your troubles. Is there anything else I can help you with? As she takes the shoes and puts it into the bin we have behind the desk that goes to claims. The woman is speechless for a second, and my manager walks away. And then the woman started stuttering that she'll take the 10% now, and we told her no. She even said she'll pay full price since they were the only ones in her size, and we just told her over and over that no, we have to send them back to the company since they're broken, and we can't sell them to anyone. She eventually gives up and walks away. My coworker and I have a good laugh about it, and about 5 minutes later, she walks past the desk again and all but yells, "I'm not buying a single thing from this store anymore." I responded, "Okay, have a great night," and smiled all cheery while she huffed and left. Unfortunately, I'm 99% sure she'll be back in a week like every other customer who's never shopping here again. But one can hope, lol. I wonder how many times she can use the word tattered to describe these shoes. Like, I'm pretty sure I just read out tattered like 18,000 times. Oh my goodness. Sure, I'll come in. This happened to me about 6 years ago, and I think it may fit here. During my apprenticeship in a big company, we got ordered into a meeting with our direct boss today. The person who runs the whole apprentice department, we were like 120 people at the time. He told all of us that we had way too many sick days in the last couple of weeks, and that this was detrimental to the company and working morale. He even had graphs and a whole PowerPoint presentation shaming some people directly for being too often sick. But because all the sick days were because of doctor's notices, he couldn't directly discipline us in any way. So he came up with the new rule that every doctor's notice has to be given to him in person on the first day of sick leave. Before that, there was a postbox where we could just drop them off and call in sick. From now on, he wants to see every last one of us. It was pretty clear that he thought some of us were just faking it, and that this new rule would keep us from doing so. A couple of days after the meeting, I got very sick with a bad case of stomach flu. I kid you not, I was spraying it like a fire hose. I felt like I had to die, but I still mustered the strength to call into work, telling the boss's secretary that I was sick. He reminded me that I have to come in with a doctor's notice or I would get in trouble. I told him that I was really not in the condition to come in today, but he was adamant about it. So I did. I went to the doctor, got my notice, drove to work, and walked up to the secretary. He told me my boss was in a meeting with all the higher-ups from other departments, but he was instructed to send me in. I could only imagine because he wanted to make this as uncomfortable as possible for me. But I had no problem with that. I went into the meeting room with all the important people. My boss stood up from the conference table and made me greet everyone there with a handshake. So I did. I guess he saw how uncomfortable it made me, but had a smug smile on his face. When I finally was able to give him my doctor's notice, he asked me what I had. A little cold? That was the moment I looked him in his eyes and told him I was spewing and vomiting like a volcano for the last 2 days, and my doctor thought I had a bad case of stomach flu, and I better should be at home and not under people in case I was contagious. His mouth stood open. Everyone in the room was silent, and I turned around and went home. The rule was dropped not long after that. I really expected the guy to throw up all over the people, but that was good enough. Full shift or no shift? No shift it is then. This happened this past week. I work for a big chain department store, and at this time of the year, payroll hours are thin on the ground. We also have big aisle resets going on at this time. One of my co-workers did not show up for a shift, and management asked me to pick up a shift the next day to finish the work she left for us. I agreed, and my team lead and I hashed out a good time and set aside 4 hours work for me the next day, which was a Thursday. I normally have school on Thursdays, and my TL was understanding in that I was coming in on what would normally be a day off, and was okay with me working a short shift with the express purpose of finishing the set and then leaving right away. His boss, however, was not so understanding. She told me that I either had to work the full 8-hour shift or I shouldn't bother coming in. Well, school is really important, a sentiment my parents have ingrained in me since childhood. So I said okay and finished my shift. Thursday comes around and I slept in. Did some work ahead for class, then went to class. Midday on Thursday, my boss calls and it goes something like this. OP, where are you? Driving to class. How can I help you? Why aren't you at work? You said full shift or no shift. I have class on Thursdays, so I chose class. Edit. I wasn't officially on the schedule as she never put the shift in the computer at work, so it won't appear as a no call, no show. She doesn't have much recourse either, as I am in the system as getting Mondays and Thursdays entirely off because I have school those days. I was just coming in on an off day to help out my TL as a kindness, cause he's usually a chill and respectable boss, and it wasn't going to be very long at all. She wanted me there for 8+ hours to do something. She didn't really say what. Update. Store director eventually heard about what happened. He was less than impressed with the boss that tried to force me into a shift that would cut into my classes and eat up payroll hours we didn't have. I just don't understand how people don't understand ultimatums. Like, you don't make one if you aren't prepared for either of the choices. Just don't say them. And then there's actually another story from the same person, which is really recent. So, if you can do better, prove it. Bit of a backstory. I work in retail, and one of my bosses, let's call her Jane, has this standing rule. If you think I'm being unreasonable, challenge me and I'll try to meet my own demands. If I can, you can too. If I can't, we'll figure something out that is reasonable. Jane is the main antagonist from that previous post I just read, which is actually a decent rule that has led to some great entertainment. Like, when she absolutely smoked a guy in the very first challenge and beat his time on task by about 30 minutes, and new rules and guidelines when current ones were found to be unreasonable. Another long-standing rule, specifically for bike building, is that we need to give Carl a heads up when a bike is defective. He likes to give our distribution center hell when they send us defective stuff, because they're notorious for messing stuff up in the wildest ways when they pack the trucks. I.e., they once managed to send us a bike that we don't sell, folded in half. Also mildly important, of the 3 guys in the store that can build bikes, I have trained the other 2 and am consistently the quickest and have the fewest mistakes. Things happen and we can miss stuff, but all 3 of us look out for each other and will fix a bike real quick if we notice a problem. The story. Today, I had a 10-hour shift dedicated wholly to building bikes for sporting goods. My store director, Carl, wanted 30 bikes built today. So, about 3 an hour. Not terrible. Corporate averages state that a bike takes approximately 17 minutes and some odd seconds to build. I usually state 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the size of the bike and how much tweaking brakes and derailleurs need. Accounting for a 30-minute lunch, I would be at work from 8 AM to 6 PM. I get to work and get started. All is well. About 3 PM, Jane arrives and starts raising hell with everyone as she walks around the store. At 4 PM, she makes it to the area where I'm building bikes. I have 21 done and my number 22 in progress. I was a little behind because I decided to actually take both of my 15-minute breaks today. Jane sees the collection of bikes I've built and tells me that I need to stop building and push what I can out to the sales floor. Alright, that's gonna slow me down even more though, and I may not get all 30 done today. Doesn't matter, Sliglicked, get it done. However, if you're that far behind, you should be upping your efficiency. Oh. I was kind of annoyed that she would imply that I'm not doing the work properly. How? First of all, Build one bike, push one bike. Okay, if you want me to push as I build, I would do 2 at a time, half the trips. That's fine, but what about the building itself? Are you sure you're building quick enough? I'll challenge you on that, Jane. I've got number 22 on the rack right there and all the tools you need on the bench next to it. If you can build that bike in less than 12 minutes, which is how long it took me to build this identical one right before it, I'll take your advice. I think she had forgotten about that challenge rule, or at least thought I had forgotten. I've never invoked it before in the few years we've worked together. I started taking bikes out to the floor at 4:15. She wasted that much time trying to get out of building the bike. By the time I finished filling the bike area in sporting goods, it was 34 minutes past 4, and Jane had finished the bike in 10 minutes flat. So she sat there waiting for me with all the swagger she could muster in her small frame. I took one look at that bike, just one cursory glance, and knew I had won. Well, you did it quick, but you can't sell that bike. And why not? She used this accusatory and condescending tone that she has when she thinks she's got one over on you. Personally, I hate that tone, and it's part of why I so thoroughly dislike her as a person. Well, the brakes aren't connected, which is impressive because the rear brakes are connected out of the box. The chain is off, also impressive. You forgot the pegs and the rear reflector that's supposed to go on the seat stem. Not to mention that you somehow put a massive hole in the side of the front tyre. And in a tube. Wow. I think she tried to use a box cutter to break the zip ties that hold together pieces for shipping on these bikes. That's the only thing I can think of. But we have a tool for breaking the zip ties. It's labelled and everything. So I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. The bike wall is full. So yeah. Do you need help defecting this bike out, or do you got it? Also, do you want to tell Carl about this bike, or should I? That got her off my back pretty quick. Who goes to a bike tyre and an inner tube and uses a knife to try and... that's just stupid. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.